gentlemen, November, my favorite time of year, heading into Thanksgiving. I'm joined here by my comrade Jason, in his Russian tracksuit, straight from football practice.
Straight from football practice.
Oh, you didn't know I was going there with the comrade joke, did you? You didn't catch it.
I did catch it.
Okay.
It was probably a different salute that should have been done. But,
yeah.
Here we go.
Guys, we are excited to be back with you. It was a quick turnaround for us, but we're super excited about what fall means and going into the holiday season of Thanksgiving and Christmas. To me, it's like it is the middle of bourbon season. I think if you follow us on social media, I posted a little recipe here on our page recently.
Pecan pie?
Yeah, dark chocolate bourbon pecan pie, which is an annual staple in my household. It just starts to feel like it's the right time of year. So I'm excited about our pours this month. Without really further ado, we're going to jump into this month's society pour. But we decided to, jump outside our normal. We've spent a lot of time in Kentucky.
We have.
It is the bedrock for me of American bourbon. But we thought we'd take it into Tennessee. And we are going to talk a little bit about what makes the difference between a Tennessee whiskey and a bourbon. And surprisingly, not much. And then talk about our offering this month, which is a George Dickel 8-year bourbon. If you'd like to get us a little splash going on there. Thank you, sir. So interesting, George Dickel was born 40 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed. Got involved pretty early on. He was a merchant and worked in the markets of Nashville, Tennessee, and kind of started to get involved in the whiskey game by buying some property where they were distilling whiskey. And got really involved in it, and before they knew it, they were really taking off. He was very passionate about it. He bought like an 80% stake or something like that in the distillery, the Cascade Hollow Mountain, and started making what they called the smoothest whiskey in America. And he was a Scotchman, and a unique thing about this bourbon, you might read a lot of times that a real easy cheat on how to spell whiskey is there's an E in it if the country that it's from has an E in it, and there's no E if it doesn't. But American whiskey almost universally uses an EY, but George Dickel, being the Scotchman and really committing himself to making whiskey the old world way, is one of the few American whiskey makers that still do not put an E in their whiskey.
And what I enjoy about that is when you're at your local watering hole or talking to a bartender and having that conversation with them, most of the time you're going to blow their mind with that.
Yeah, they have no idea.
There's so many bottles back there and they're thinking to themselves, I didn't really even know that there was a difference between the EY and the Y.
So, pop quiz, Comrade Jason.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between making a Tennessee whiskey and a straight Kentucky bourbon?
Well, there isn't really a difference.
Yeah, there is a little bit.
There's not a technical difference, although there is a preference difference.
Yeah, so to be called a Tennessee whiskey, obviously it has to come from Tennessee, and to be called a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, it has to be from Kentucky. But the recipe, the mash bill, the maturation process, the char, the wood, all the things are still the same. 51% corn. You can come up with whatever secondary grain you want. At least 2 years in new white American oak barrels. The only real difference to be called a Tennessee whiskey is the charcoal filtration. So they are going to go through an extra step of filtering it through a charcoal filter, much like your Brita filter. Still a very traditional way. Moonshiners make Tennessee style whiskey by running through charcoal and vertical. But the Tennessee filtration is a staple part to be called a Tennessee whiskey. Now, the one difference between Dickel is they also, what did he call it? it's cold filtered.
Cold filtered.
But they called it the moonlight process.
That's right, the moonlight process.
So he would always distill in the winter rather than the summer, and tried to stick to nights because he thought that the coolness created a smoother,
that chill
smoother
factor.
finish. Right.
Yeah.
Like Coors.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
But so this is a chilled, charcoal filtered bourbon. Now, in a very unique twist as well. So because this is, even though this says bourbon, this is chill filtered. It is charcoal filtered. I'm sorry, chill distilled or charcoal filtered, cold distilled. This is a Tennessee whiskey.
It is, except for the fact that they're calling it a bourbon.
And the only reason they're doing it is because they feel like the profile of this whiskey is more in line with the flavor profiles of a true traditional American bourbon. We put this out here as well, just because we think when we're talking Dickel, this became what are they coming out with here a few years ago? Mm-hmm. And now it's becoming more and more, it's gotten more expensive, it's becoming a little more unique. This is a bottled and bond Tennessee whiskey that is, when it first came out, 13 years. They came out with 11 years, back to 13. But this came out at like less than $40 for a 13-year-old, technically a bourbon, but Tennessee whiskey. You can't beat that with a stick.
Not at all.
And so
you can still find it.
And we started drinking this one pretty early on. We were like, holy cow, this became a dark routine.
Absolutely.
So I now have still a 13. You've got an 11 over there.
11s.
You've gone through quite a few 11s.
We've gone through a few 11s.
Yeah, and the 13 back out again. But if you ever see it out there, if you like this profile, this is a great thing that you could do side by side, tasting their profile of an 8-year bourbon, a 13 or an 11-year Tennessee whiskey, bottled and bond. So this is 100 proof, a little bit hotter. But great side by side to see what the maturation in the barrel does for the whiskey.
It was interesting too because we actually liked the 8-year, I think, more than we liked the 11 or 13-year. But it also depends on the night. But I think that, when we did do this taste profile side by side, we were partial to the 8.
Yeah, I think it made us realize how much kind of smoother it was and softer. Yeah. We love this, and then all of a sudden we drank this right after it, and we're like, man, that is a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
And
that makes all the difference sometimes when you drink it right after each other.
Yeah. So you've got this 8-year, and for me, right off, especially, look, I think any of these things, as you start to get those 6+ years, whatever, I like to let them open just a bit. You saw we poured it, we let it sit for a minute. Some of that alcohol and ethanol kind of gets out of there. But I get cherry and orange right off the bat. There's a lot of cherry in the nose and like an orange peel or orange oil.
Yeah, definitely get the fruit.
Kind of on the back end of that. Smells amazing though. Like it smells almost more refreshing, than some of those big vanilla caramel toffee bombs. So go ahead and get that. You should get some cherry. You should get some orange in there. You do get vanilla, but it's a lighter vanilla. It's not like a deep vanilla extract kind of smell at all. I think once you take a sip, you definitely get that cherry up front again. The oak comes through, but then like a toffee almond kind of softness. It's a little more subtle. It's not in your face, but it's awesome for... the reason that I thought this is going to be a great one, because one, you can find it. You can take this to Thanksgiving to somebody, and this would make an amazing old fashioned, an amazing Manhattan if you like a little bit of a softer bite in your Manhattan. But look, my mom and I staple, and mom, we'll do it on Thursday. Is a little bit of bourbon, splash of Sprite or 7-Up, orange and a cherry muddled. Yeah. And with crushed ice, and that is just the way we start every Thanksgiving. And so I wanted something that would be a great profile, that one you wouldn't care about pouring into that little cocktail, but then as the day goes on and you're going off the iced drinks and you just want to sip on something, this bottle stands up for that too. So you can sit there and enjoy this after dinner. And
it's something that's, this is a low 30s, under $30 bottle.
Yeah.
This one, 100, it's a 100 proof bottle and bond, but it's also under $40.
Yeah, getting closer now, sometimes up to 50.
It's going up in price for sure, but it's just one. I mean, George Dickel has come out with so many different variations, and from the 15-year,
Yep.
I think they've got like another
we
7-year.
the
15 years up there, which was about 60. But I mean, to find these kinds of years, this kind of smoothness for that price point, you just really can't beat it.
Well, Dickel makes so much whiskey and they have so much aging that they sell a lot of juice to other people who are doing their own blending.
Costco had their Kirkland version of Tennessee whiskey, which was a George Dickel, and it was good.
Yeah,
that was 100 and something proof, and it was delicious.
Well, and look, they're partnering still our Copper Tongue.
Yeah,
our Copper Tongue Orphan Barrel, which if you know me or you know anything about Orphan Barrel, some of the most collectible whiskeys in the world. They came out with their 16-year here recently, which is Dickel.
Yeah.
So, they've got a lot of juice. But I think for me, the reason that I put this guy in there is cocktail in the morning for Thanksgiving. You can bake your pie with it, and then you can sip on it. And it's a one-hit wonder for your Thanksgiving and for the holiday season.
It's versatile for sure.
Yes.
I mean, you can mix it, you can drink it neat, you can put it on ice, and you're not going to be disappointed. The price point's where it needs to be. And it's just enjoyable, and it's something that you could bring to any function, and I think it turns heads.
Well, it's an 8 year still too, right?
Yeah.
And so you're getting away, blast it on there, a nice little label down here tells you how old it is. So it looks like you're bringing something. It tastes great, but you can use it for all the things that you're going to need it for on the day. And we just thought it'd be a great way for us to feature the first Tennessee whiskey, calling it a bourbon. So it's a transition out of Kentucky, but opens you up to the idea that, look, even if you see Tennessee whiskey, it's a lot of the same thing. Slightly different finishing process, but you can allow yourself to expand into other regions, and you're getting a very, very similar process in the bottle.
And in my opinion, I enjoy it a lot more than a regular Jack Daniel's, which is a Tennessee whiskey as well, which is one of the most popular whiskeys in the world. This is a great alternative to that if you're looking for something that's a little bit more aged.
Yeah, it's the Lincoln process, right? The Lincoln County process is the charcoal filter. So that's made famous by some of the most famous whiskey makers in America. So
not to be confused with Lincoln County War.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, guys, I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. Please try the pie recipe. You won't be disappointed. A little scoop of warm scoop of vanilla ice cream. It's all you need.
That sounds delicious.
It's so good. And don't forget, if you didn't read it, chocolate chunks, bittersweet, not chips. Trust me on that one. So guys, thank you so much. I hope you and your loved ones and your family, I hope you're able to get together. I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. I am looking forward to it more than you will ever know. Because it is my absolute favorite time of the year. I wish all of my peeps were here to enjoy it with me, but we will see you soon. I'll definitely call you. Other than that, guys, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the whiskey.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Cheers.
Enjoy.